And finally, we do need to expect distractions and a lack of perfection. This is a technical tool, and sometimes people's internet goes out, and sometimes, bizarre things happen, like a child runs through. So just go with the flow, and I think we'll all be good. What I want to start off with today is this beautiful picture of this image of the brain, and think about how we learn. And I want you to reflect on that. What causes humans to learn? What I want to do is have you get into a breakout room, because I want you to ask your colleagues about how they think we learn. So what we're going to do here is go into a breakout room for 15 minutes. It looks like we have about 95 people, so I'm going to make 10 breakout rooms. So there'll be roughly 9 or 10 people in each room. And what I want you to do in the breakout room is to quickly introduce yourselves to your colleagues and find out who has the most teaching experience. So you're going to get in the breakout room. You're going to say, my name is Amy. I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I teach at a university. Then tell us how many years you've been teaching. And I've been teaching actually 30 years this year, 30 years. And the reason we want to know who's been teaching the longest is that person is going to be our spokesperson. So I want you to spend about 15 minutes very quickly doing your introductions, but more importantly, I want you to discuss ideas about how humans learn. How do we learn? Not maybe a second language, but just how do we learn in general? What happens in the brain? And then the spokesperson has got to give us a 90-second summary. So when we come back all together, I'm going to ask each group to give us a 90-second or less summary of what you discussed. And that's going to be tough, because I know there's going to be lots of ideas. So maybe don't share everything you discussed, maybe 2 or 3 of the brightest ideas that your group came up with. I want all of the subsequent groups to listen carefully, because we don't want to have a lot of repetition. So if you jotted down some ideas and some other of your colleagues already said them, when we all come back together, try to pick ones that we haven't heard yet. I hope that makes sense. It's very, 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 very important that you remember what room number you're in. So when you're assigned to a breakout room, it's going to have a room number. So jot that down, because when I ask for breakout group number 4 to report, you'll want to know which group that was. Again, when you come back, the host, the spokesperson, will not introduce everybody that was in the group. The spokesperson is just going to report on the best ideas that the group came up with about how humans learned. Are you ready? Shall we try it? Okay, I'm going to stop my share and see if I can go into our breakout rooms. Let's see. I don't seem to have that capability. I wonder if our co-host can do it. Oh, there we go. It looks like we are getting invited. Excellent. So I will see you in a few minutes. Okay, I think people are coming back into our main room now. I see some more faces. Excellent. All righty. What I want to do now is that I want to have you have your spokesperson from each group very quickly let us know some of the ideas that you talked about in your group. I wish we had a chance to have everybody introduce themselves, but if I do that, we will be here all day long. So we're going to use our Moodle as a way to get to know each other. That's where I've already set up a discussion where you can introduce yourself to your colleagues. So what I want to do now is to kindly ask for the spokesperson for group 1 to share some of the ideas that you all came up with on how people learn things. I'm going to do a clock here. It's a 1 minute and 30-second clock. And I'm doing it not because I don't want to hear your ideas, but because we only have 2 hours for this webinar. So I want you to try to summarize what you talked about in less than 1.5 minutes. So I have a little circle, and it's going to go around. When it fills up, that means your time is over. So kind of watch your time as you're speaking. Could I please ask the spokesperson for group number 1 to share with us? Who is in group number 1? I don't hear from group number 1. Why don't we go to group number 2? Do I have a brave teacher who will share your ideas from group number 2? Group number 2, group number 2, where are you? Okay, let's move on to group number 3. Do I have a person from breakout room 3 that wants to share? Playing. How about group number 4? 4. I see somebody raising their hand. Is that group number 4?
Group number 3.
Group 3.
Yes, I am group number 4. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes. Yeah, we also discussed about your focus on your question. And I also find some teacher they have very experienced teacher. I am very interested with the Mai Chang from Đồng Nai. She was younger, but she just 3 years teaching English, but she very active, and she introduced about herself about something I very interesting. I think she very experienced teacher, and also another teacher also say about how they teaching about from their student. Yes, we are just this focus on the question and introduce about yourself. We have about 7 or 5 in our group number 4. Thank you. Yeah. Can you hear me? Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate you being brave and jumping in there, group 4. Let's give them a hand.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, teacher.
Oh, alrighty, and I forgot to turn on the stopwatch. Do we have a group number 3?
Yes, I am from group number 3, and I'm the representative of group number 3. Our group members have discussed and come up with a summary of what humans learn and how human learns. Human learn by the 6 senses: hearing, touching, seeing, tasting, smelling, etc. And it come up with, when we teach, we try to initiate the 6 senses of the students in order to make them learn. Our second idea is human learns by movements. So especially young children, they like to jump, to run, to sit, to stand, to run, etc. The next idea, human learns by experience and experiment. And our last idea is human learn with the support, with the help of technology whenever possible. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. And look at, you have 20 seconds left. Wonderful. Do I have somebody from group number 5 that wants to share? Okay, how about group number 6?
Hello, I'm from group number 6. Yes, and we have discussed about how people in my group have learned, and some of them learn by listening to the instructions from the instructors, and some others say that they learn by doing practice, and some say that they just learn by listening to other people talk and look at the pictures. And so we have summed up that if we want to teach our students, we have to combine listening, speaking, and reading. That's all about our group. Thank you.
Excellent. I appreciate that. I really like that you brought up the speaking and listening and reading and writing, the skills that we're talking about tonight. Thank you. And I love your picture that you have there for your screensaver. That's gorgeous. Okay, I better stop that. You did a nice job too, keeping that under a minute and a half. Do I have the beautiful representative from number 7, Miss Chi?
Hello, I'm Chi. I'll talk about how do we learn. And I think there are many ways of learning, but maybe 2 main ways. First, we learn purposely, and second, it's not. Purposely means maybe we go to school and we learn new things by the teachers, and we can learn from listening something, seeing something, and then we repeat that, we practice it, and we use it in our daily life, and that's what we learn or how we learn. And I think if someone likes something, they will learn nothing better than the others. It means if they don't, that's all. That's all for me. That's my point.
Excellent, thank you. I totally agree with you about the motivation. If they don't want to learn, it's hard to get them to learn, right? If that emotion is not there, or the motivation. Thank you, my friend. How about somebody from group 8?
Yes. Yes. Good morning. Our group came up with some many ways humans can learn. First, we can learn through our senses, like group 3 mentioned. We learn through watching, listening from the senses we have, but we focus on emotions. If we are happy, we can learn much better than when we are stressed or when we are unhappy. We learn through practicing. If we want to be skillful at something, we need to do it again and again and again. And after a certain period of time, we can be very good at that skill. And we also learn through authentic situations. And we think that they are very important. If we are in real situations, we can learn much faster than we just sit at one place and imagine something. We also agreed on the ideas that we need to remember. And I remember the Bloom's taxonomy. The first level of learning is to remember something, and after that we can move to other steps like understanding, analyze, apply, evaluate, and create. Thank you very much.
Wow, I'm very impressed you could bring back all that Bloom's taxonomy. Excellent.
Thank you.
Very productive. Thank you, group 8. How about 9? Group 9.
Yes, group 9 here. Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it, babe.
Morning, everyone. Our group came up with some ideas, but we share the ideas of group 3 in some senses. The first one we believe that people learn by listening and observing others or even nature, things in nature. And then they can learn by experiencing and making mistakes. One thing we also mention is that people can learn by memorizing. And then we have short-term and long-term memory. Then when we teach language to children, we have to focus on the ways of organizing activities that can penetrate the long-term memory of children. Yes, that's all for our group.
Excellent. That was fine, group 9. Woohoo. I'm a bad poet. Okay. Group 10, could we have our very last group? Group 10.
Hello everyone. Hello everyone. I don't know for sure that we are in group 10 or not, but we think we are the last. Okay. You asked me how do people learn, and we think that we have two kind of people who want to learn English, adult and children. And adult often learn by doing a lot of exercise and doing a lot of tests in listening, reading, writing skills. But the children like learning by listening to music, watching film, cartoon film. Especially children like playing a lot of game, and after that they can learn from from playing the game, and children can learn something from that. Okay, sorry teachers, we don't know for sure, maybe we are the last group and we are group 10 or not. Okay, thank you for listening.
Thank you. I love that you brought up music, and I love that you brought up games, because I think even adults like that. Okay. I teach at university, and my adult students like to play games too. Okay, thank you, group 10. I know we missed a couple of groups in the beginning. Does anybody else want to represent their group before we continue?
I think, yes, I think I'm from group 2, but I'm not the representative of group 2 because I have been teaching English for just 19 years, but the spokesperson of our group has been teaching English for 25 years, but I don't know the reason why he didn't raise his voice. So on behalf of my group, I want to share something about what we have discussed. There are nine people in my group 2, but we just collected ideas from 7 participants. We share the same ideas with other groups about how we learn. And I can summarize like this. We learn from our experience. We learn from our experiments, from our memory, from real life and real objects, from imitation, from practice, from our mistakes, and from our activities. And that's all. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. And I know sometimes people's internets go in and out, so maybe people aren't able to participate because, you know, something's happened to their connection. So I appreciate you being bold and jumping in and giving us your summary. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Miss Ari.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to show my gratitude to have a chance to join this course. So this course gave me a lot of opportunity to improve my teaching skill in high school. In my high school, so you know that my school is belong to a small district. So all the students have just finished the writing test. So they have a lot of difficulties in speaking skill. So so I want to all of you to tell me how to do the way to teach all of my students how to to have a skill to improve their skill to interact with others, because they have no chance to talk with others, especially the native speaker. So when I talk to Mr. Army, I have a lot of confidence, and I admire you a lot. So yeah, and your way to interact with people, you know, I'm really glad to join this course.
Well, I am glad that you are glad.
Yes.
I am, and I want to thank everybody for participating in this. It's not easy to talk in front of your, it's not easy to talk in front of your colleagues, so thank you. I think over the next 5 months, we will become very comfortable with each other because you're going to be doing activities outside of the webinar where you will meet with different people from different provinces and maybe different levels. Maybe you'll meet with a primary teacher and you're a secondary teacher, but I think you'll have a chance to exchange ideas. And I think we're all gonna leave this with more tools in our English teaching toolkits. That is my hope. But thank you everybody for participating. I almost think I should leave because your answers that the groups gave are all what's reflected in the research. And that's what I want to share with you next. There is a woman, Rita Smilkstein, who wrote a book called We Are Born to Learn. And it came out about 20 years ago, but to me, it is just mind-blowing thinking about all of the research that's been done on the human brain to figure out how people actually learn. And she came up with these 5 rules of how the brain learns. And the first one is scaffolding. And we know that there has to be something there to begin with for the neurons and the dendrites and the synapses all to make connections. So it's really, really important that we connect new learning to something that we already know so that you can create a foundation for it to latch onto and to stick into your brain. Many of you mentioned learning by doing. Totally agree with that. Dendrites, synapses, and neural networks grow from what is actively, personally, and specifically experienced and practiced. And I heard that over and over again in your reports about having experiences and having those be active. I love it that several of you mentioned you need to learn from your mistakes because we really need time to practice, make and correct our mistakes to gain our own expertise and in-depth understanding. So excellent. Finally, or not finally, next, I should say, stimulating experiences. Dendrites, synapses, and neural networks grow from stimulating experiences. And that's kind of what these webinars are going to be about, trying to think of ways we can stimulate the learning for our students, different experiences that we as teachers can create or design for our students so that they can continue to learn and grow in the English language. Use it or lose it. This one kind of makes me laugh because I think we all know that if you don't practice things and you don't apply them, that they lose their connectivity and they kind of just crumble and disappear. So we do really need to make sure that we have applications and practice to reinforce these stimulating experiences that we are creating. So if we don't use the knowledge we've gained, the neurons in the brain may weaken and gradually just break up, which is so sad because if they're there to begin with, we want to keep nourishing them so that they continue to grow and be used. Finally, several of you talked about emotions, which I appreciate too, using the different senses to help people learn. But also when we're talking about motivation, and if students are, have a bad experience with learning English, or they don't understand the value of it and they're kind of negative about the whole thing, that's certainly going to affect whether or not the English sticks and whether or not they want it to stick. So emotions engage meaning and predict future learning because they involve goals, beliefs, biases, and experiences. So students come to us with different backgrounds, right? And they have different genetic and physical makeups. But the premise of this Rita Smilkstein book is that we are born to learn, that our brain really is wired to learn, and that as teachers, it's our job to create experiences to help students engage the senses, make meaningful connections, make decisions, apply what they have learned, reflect on their own thinking and accomplishments, and use critical thinking and feedback from others. We need to make sure to provide a rich, multisensory environment that embraces the arts, music, which was mentioned, storytelling, drama, emotions, and real-world context, because we want to engage our students' interests and foster critical thinkers. So the brain learns through experience. In our job, create experiences that help students engage the senses, make meaningful connections, make decisions, apply what's been learned, reflect on their own thinking, and use critical thinking and feedback from others. This PowerPoint I'm going to put in the Moodle. So if anybody wants to go back and look at it later, you are welcome to. In fact, if you want to use this PowerPoint to do some teacher training of your own at your own school, that's fine with me. I give you this PowerPoint, take it, do whatever you want with it. So if I'm talking too quickly, which I tend to do on Zoom, I apologize, but you can certainly go back and review these principles and these rules for how the brain works. But let's go do another activity. I want to make sure that we all would agree that students learn from their whole experience. So learners must be overexposed to content with context, submerged in learning, involved in talking, listening, reading, and discovering. And this particular quote doesn't mention writing, but I think that we would agree that that's one of the 4 skills that does need to be practiced. So I want us to think about ways that we can brighten up our classes by integrating the 4 skills. So the title of this webinar is Shining a Light. And I think we all know the brightest light in the world is the sun. And what I have here is a picture of the New Mexico state flag. So I live in one of the poorest states in the country. It's usually 48 for income. And we struggle to educate our students because we have a lot of ELL, English language learners. We have a lot of poverty and we have not a lot of rich resources in our classrooms. So it's really up for the teachers in New Mexico to figure out how we can best engage our students. And one thing that I like to do is use Native American symbols and Native American myths and legends in my classes because I have so many immigrants and refugees coming to New Mexico who are not familiar with New Mexican culture. And New Mexico is unique in America in that we have more minorities in the majority, which means we have a very, very high number of Hispanic students mainly from Mexico and Central America. And we also have a large Native American population. And those 2 populations are larger than the typical white population in New Mexico. I'm very happy that we have a large population of Vietnamese people in Albuquerque, where I live, which means we have some really good restaurants. Not as good as Vietnam, but really good restaurants here. And I always have lots of Vietnamese students in my classes. So I'm very grateful to live in a state that really embraces the cultures of many different people. But back to the flag. This is our state flag of New Mexico. And what this is a symbol of the sun that comes from an Indian tribe, a Native American tribe called the Zias. And it's based on the power of 4. It has 4 rays, and each of these rays represents something, which we're going to talk about in a few moments. But I like to think of this as being a way to think about listening, speaking, reading, and writing. That we really need to shine a light on all of these skills in each of our lessons. So if you can kind of remember this sun, this Zia sun, maybe that will kind of help brighten up your classes when you're feeling kind of dull and not sure what you're going to do for a lesson. Just thinking about how you might brighten them up by using all 4 of the skills. What I want to do is do one more breakout tonight because I want to hear from you why we should integrate the 4 skills. So we just talked about how the brain learns. How does integrating the 4 skills help with learning? Or why should we do it? So this time, again, we're going to go into breakout rooms. I'm hoping we will do different breakout rooms so that you have a chance to meet different people this time. But I'm not sure if the organizers, if Samoa Track can, Retrack can do that. So you may be in the same breakout room, I'm not sure. This time though, find out who your newest teacher is. Not necessarily the youngest teacher, but who is the newest to the teaching profession. And I'm going to have that person report back to the large group just like we did. I did already hear some challenges from a teacher that talked about being in a small province with not a lot of resources and how students don't like to practice speaking. So maybe that's something that you could talk about when you're identifying challenges. I'm very interested in this for me personally, because I'd like to see if I can find some resources that we could share and talk about in future webinars. So I am interested in hearing some of the challenges you have in combining these skills. Okay, are we all good? Everybody know what to do? We're going to go back into our breakout rooms. I have that it is 8:40, so at 8:55 we will come back again together to very quickly go over your results. So if I could please have our very nice host put us back into breakout rooms. 2 questions: why should we integrate the skills, and challenges of integrating the skills. So let me see if I can have other to very quickly go over your results. So if I could please have our very nice host put us back into breakout rooms. 2 questions: why should we integrate the skills, and challenges of integrating the skills. So let me see if I can have our host break us into rooms again. And those are your 2 questions to talk about. Okay, looks like we're doing it. Okay, I think people are coming back into our main room. Let's see. Okay, do I have people coming back into the main room now? I will shut that down. Okay, let's see. We have some people coming back in. We're going to do the same thing again, and I'm going to ask a spokesperson for each group to share what you talked about in your group. We will start this time from group 10 and go back to group 1. So we'll start with 10, then 9, 8, 7. And again, you'll have 1 minute and 30 seconds. So let me see if we have all of our participants back. Whoops, I jumped ahead too far in my PowerPoint. There we go. Okay, so what I want to have you do when you're back here all together is I'm going to ask group number 10, would you kindly tell us what you talked about in your room? Do I have a spokesperson from group number 10?
Yes, Sorry
We
for
have
my
number 8 here.
unstable connection. Well, good morning, teachers. I am Nguyễn Thanh Toàn, and I am an internship teacher. I have two year experience in teaching. So, as I was saying at the previous discussion, is you need to develop your interest for skill, because by interest the four skill, the student experience and with text risk in learning with foreign language, which make learning more lively and productive. And furthermore, so of course, one skill will reinforce the other. For example, if you're reading a lot, your listening will better, and speaking a lot, your writing is better too, and vice versa. And the difficulty when I develop the difficult skill that I had my thinking. Yes, I don't have physical thinking about, so speaking is my difficulty. So that's all my idea that I want to share with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you sharing. I agree. It seems like speaking is a difficult skill to integrate into the classrooms. I heard that from several different people. I was in group 10, so thank you for sharing that. Do I have a representative from group 9?
Yes. I'm Mr. Lung from group 9. Yeah, can you hear me? Yes. I present our group to talk about the strategy for skill lesson. Yes, in our group have an idea that the big strategy in for skill like on of a student have the different level. That's why we have very difficult for teaching, and sometimes many students they have the idea but they have no vocabulary to talk with you. And also that at school we just have 45 minutes for a period. That's why that is a short time. That is for a short time for us to think for four skills together. That is also difficult. And as well, also we from our from group from our group from the small province. That's why the material also the difficult for us. We have done enough material for computer, like internet. We also had a little problem. That's why make us some country as well. And our student, especially our student, we have no chance to talk with the like the native speaker. They just learn from the model language. We have to take a time for the translate model language. That is we have difficult. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I thought it was interesting that you mentioned the 45-minute classes. That's so short. I can see that would be a challenge. Absolutely. Thank you. How about group 8? Do I have a rep from 8?
Hello. I'm from group 8. We have discussed the questions and I'd like to share some of our group's ideas. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes. Why do we have to integrate four skills in teaching English? In my opinion, I'm a teacher of English and I have been teaching English for more than 15 years. We should integrate the four skill in teaching English because it is necessary. It is a good way to make our lessons more productive, more interesting. And some of students in the class like speaking. They enjoy speaking lessons. They enjoy listening. And of course, in the process of learning, we cannot separate the four skill. And that's in the psychological influence on the students. And the challenges that we have to face is, the first one is the time limit. The second is the crowded class. And the third is the level of student in the class. I mean, they are not the same. They don't have the same level. So when we integrate the first skill, some weak students of language feel a lot of difficulty. They scared of learning English and they are afraid of speaking. That's all my idea from group 8. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I like that several of you mentioned the fact that students do have different levels in the classroom, which does make things a little more challenging. I know where I teach either like the intermediate students, or I teach the advanced, or I teach the low beginners, but they've all been tested and put into my group, and they all have, you know, similar levels. So it is more challenging when it's by grade and you have weaker students and stronger students.
And as you know, that in Vietnam, we have to meet the demands of the examination. If we teach students speaking, listening, and but in the real actual examination, they don't have that skill. They just ask about the language. And how can we overcome? That's the question.
And I think that's an excellent question. Yeah, I hope that we have a chance to talk about that in the next few webinars.
Thank you.
And certainly something to address in our Moodle, I hope. Thank you. How about group number 7? Do I have a rep from 7? Number 7. Report number 7. Maybe not. How about group number 6? Do I have a representative from 6?
Hello, I'm from group 6.
Good.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Dan Ngọc Lâm from Lâm Đồng province, and maybe a short time I would like to share with you about our group discussion. Really love the question where you raised that is, why should we integrate the 4 skill and what are challenges? Actually, it's very important question for us today. I think the idea of the way we teach is gotten from the way we learn, because that's the question before we discuss about how do we learn, right? And of course, you know that we learn from our sensitive and many ways to learn, and we learn from our and we learn in 4 skills together and we develop fully. So the way we learn is effective, the way we teach. So that's why I think that interaction is very important for us to attack in a class in every day. And in a common way, I think that we should use more than a single language skill. For example, when we talk with our friend on the internet or on mobile phone, at least we use 2 skills like listening and speaking. Or when we talk with students, of course, we use at least 2 skills together. So I think integration in a lesson is very important for us to have students to develop all of their skills. Next to the language skill, we have to have them to develop the communication skill, because in written and in spoken too, I think it's very important. And I think that the challenge we may got in the class, like our friend mentioned you before, in Vietnam, actually, we have time limit, because in a lesson we have just 45 minutes for each lesson, and the number of listeners is the same as I did with our friend, just a big amount of number in the classroom. So if you want to, especially for listening skill and speaking skill, if you want to develop speaking skill, it's really hard for us, because when we separate them like this in a spare, or sometimes it's lost control, can control the class, a small thing, something like that. Of course, we have challenge, but on the way, we will try to find out the way to overcome, to tackle the problem. And I think that, so that's why we come to the class today, and you will have us to improve more. Yeah, thank you very much for your lesson today. I think that, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your thoughts there. You had a lot of interesting things to share with us. Thank you.
Yeah.
How about group number, that was group number 5, group number 4?
Hello.
Hi.
So, hi. So I come from group number 4. And so here's the thing that we have just discussed. Of course, that integration does wonders for both teachers and students. And the first thing is that we need to use, we have the input and the output skills. So we need to use the output to check the inputs of the students. The quality of the output will reflect how the students can understand the knowledge that we give them during the inputs. And the next thing is that if we integrate the 4 skills during the lesson, it will make the class and the atmosphere much more interesting, and it makes the students become much more active and dynamic. And the third one is that I think interaction is of great importance, because when we learn a language, of course, we need to integrate, we need to communicate. And so by integrating the 4 skills, I think we have the student to become fluent and use the English and in any kind of language and accurately. And but for the challenge, I think the size, I agree with the other groups about the size of the class and also the time limits. There has always been a really serious problem in the teaching environments in Vietnam. And of course, we find it really difficult to maybe cover all the students, or 45 students in 45 minutes and with the 4 skills. And the second one is, the second challenge is that maybe if we focus on the 4 skills at the same time in 45 minutes in the lesson, it will be so hard for us to focus. It is hard for us to go deeper on one skills only, because we focus too much. And also the students may find it hard to memorize all of them in during one lesson. And we also agree with the other groups, like group number 8, about the level of students, because that is the reason why we need to, we find it really difficult to maybe design a lesson to suit the weak students and also to stimulate the advanced students to be better in using a language. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I thought that was really interesting when you were talking about the input and the output, because it kind of reminded me of, I don't know if you guys remember Stephen Krashen. He's from a long, long time ago, but he talked a lot about comprehensible input and making sure that it was suitable for the population that you're teaching. So that is all of a sudden reminded me of that guy. So thank you. I appreciate all those stuff.
So much. Thank you so much.
Okay, group number 3. We got 3 groups left.
Yeah, and now I'm Nguyen Lê. I'm from Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu, and on behalf of group number 3, I would like to mention 4 reasons. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I would like to mention 4 reasons why we should integrate 4 skills when teaching in the classroom. The first reason is that when we learn a language, all skills are important and necessary to master, and 4 skills can integrate with each other. The second reason is that in the integration of 4 skills will have the learners to have chances to practice the content of the lessons in different ways. And as group number 3 have, as group number 4 have said, so the listening and the reading skill will provide the input for the speaking and writing skill. So their student can reduce their output. And the skill, one skill will reinforce another skill. And the third reason, the last reason is that when we integrate the 4 skills together, the student will get much benefits, get more benefits. And in terms of challenges, there are 5 challenges that our group have discussed. The first one is that some of the topics are very difficult for students to speak and write, such as the topic about art, technologies, and some about the science. just about physics, about chemistry. It's very difficult for students to talk and write. And the second is that students lack confidence. They are scared of making mistakes, so they are afraid of being laughed by their friends when they make some pronunciation mistake or grammatical mistake. And the third reason is that we don't have enough time to cover all the skill. And the biggest challenge maybe students like just like one or two skill, and they are not good at some skill, and some students don't like writing and listening at all. So they find listening and writing is very difficult, and they feel bored with the lessons. They don't want to write, they don't want to listen at all. So it's very difficult for us when we teach this skill and when we integrate this skill into the lessons. And that's all for my group presentation. Thank you for your listening.
Wow, you guys talked about a lot of things. I'm very impressed. I would have to agree about it's difficult to put all 4 skills into a lesson, but I kind of want to make sure that people understand that it's not in 45 minutes that you give equal attention to each one of those skills, but that all 4 skills are touched upon. So it may be that there's a lesson that you do predominantly a reading lesson with vocabulary acquisition, but there should, I hope, be some speaking and listening and writing that goes along with that. But excellent job. We have 2 more groups and we're getting close to just 15 minutes left in the presentation. So if I could ask these next 2 groups to just think about things maybe that haven't been mentioned yet so that we can go look at the Moodle and see what you have to do for your homework. So do I have somebody from group number 2?
Okay, hello everybody. On behalf of group number 2, I would like to say something. As far as I listened to other groups' presentations, I think they cover all the things. And I just want to mention something that is very brief here. Now, we know that integration 4 skills in a lesson is a must today. We cannot teach one skills or just grammar or vocabulary in one lesson. It means that there's a must. When we teach a vocabulary, we should teach them in context, right? So the students have to read, and then they teach them, they want them to make sentences for the vocabulary, so means they have to speak something. Yep, and other students can listen to the teachers and other students, so they have to listen. So it's a must, I think. Now it's I agree with other groups mentioned that we learn, we teach what we from what we have learned. That means it's a natural way. A natural way to learn. It means that we have to listen and we have to talk. It means in a moment at the same time. And now I want to mention some challenge here. It's as other group have just mentioned, it's class size, time limits, student levels, and the syllabus of time, and the text altogether. However, I want to mention some solution for the challenges. That's in order to make the lessons, I mean, active, creative, and dynamic, and we can motivate our students. We should prepare everything very well from activities. That students have to do what, and they have to. I mean, so to communicate with each other, to interact with other students in class. Teachers, other teachers mentioned that students are very shy and they don't have enough language to talk, but it's the way the teachers have to, I mean, so to take enough input for the students so that they can have some output. It means that teachers have a scaffold for the students, and the one thing is very important is that teachers should maximize the time for students to talk in class, to work together in group or in pairs. Then students can learn from each other and they can hear correction, means they correct to each other. And I think it's very important for students to talk in class, and when they talk, they listen to others, and then they learn something intentionally, or I mean, intentionally, or what is another term, accidentally, or something like that, by chance.
Well, I appreciate that you were able to give us some ideas to meet these challenges, because this is an activity I would like to do in a future webinar, where it's very, I think, easy to identify challenges. What's really challenging is identifying solutions. So I'm glad you brought those up, but we will continue that train of thought or that discussion in a future webinar, but thank you. Okay, we have one more person. Do I have somebody from group 1 that wants to share what you talked about?
Okay, so my name is Doug. I represent for group 1. I want to say something about the topic. We have 2 reasons why we should combine all 4 skills together in one lesson. So the first reason is that all the 4 skills support each other. For example, listening supports speaking. When we study listening, we learn pronunciation, and we know how to pronounce correctly. So kind of they support each other. And reading supports writing as well. For example, when we read, we learn new words, and then we learn the grammar structures, and then we use them in our writing. So kind of they support each other. And we also tell you some challenges we face in our class. The first one is that because the students have different levels of English, so they feel embarrassed when they speak English in front of their friends. So normally they speak Vietnamese, and it's very hard to make them speak English in the classroom. And the second challenge is the number of students in the class is pretty crowded. There are usually 40, 50 students in one class. So it is very difficult to integrate all 4 skills in a lesson. Okay, because it's just crowded, and it's hard for the teacher to pay attention to each individual in the classroom. So challenges, yeah. And the last challenge is the time. So we don't have enough time to teach a long lesson. In Vietnam, we have 45 minutes period. So we have to teach the 4 skills separately. For example, the first period we teach writing, and the second period we teach speaking. So kind of the time is very strict, so it's hard for us. And that's all. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I am going to whip through this, guys. Let's see if we can get through the rest of our presentation. For some reason, my PowerPoint's being weird. Let's see. There we go. So again, research shows us that integrating the skills, it creates meaningful context, it reinforces language acquisition and learning in different ways, it addresses more learning styles, it makes learning more fun and relevant, and it can lead to a greater mastery of the language. So these are some of the ideas from research, the ideas that you gave us, of course, were from your own minds and your own experiences, and they're equally valid in my mind. So let's keep going. I did get a copy of the 8th grade textbook. So this unit 6 is from a textbook I think that 8th grade teachers are using. And I was just delighted to go in and read about the origin of the Vietnamese people. I thought this legend was absolutely fascinating. And maybe because I'm so interested in culture, I love bringing cultural items into the classroom. So I was really excited that this was happening in your textbooks. What I want to do before we have just like 7 minutes left, so we're going to do this very, very quickly. I did want you to practice an activity to show you how you can use all 4 skills in an activity. We have the Zia flag here that I mentioned before. So this is a group of Native Americans. They're called the Zias, and they're the ones who made the flag that is now our state flag of New Mexico. And what's interesting, I think, about this flag is that each one of these rays represents 4 important parts of human life. So what I want to have you do, if you don't mind, is open up another screen wherever you are and go to https://padlet.com.amy.zia. And I'm going to see, whoops, I just flashed you the answers. Pretend like you didn't see that. I'm going to stop my share and I'll see if I can type that into the chat box so everybody can go there. But when you go there, if you've never used Padlet before, basically it's just a whiteboard and it is a place that you can share ideas. So if you could read that, and I'll show it to you in just a second. I'm just trying to put the link here in the chat box in case you didn't get it. It is padlet.com/ABQAmy, that's Albuquerque Amy, and then the last word is Zia. So if you want to try that, I am going to pop over there myself and see if we can. So do you all see the screen? Does it says, what do the groups of rays on the sun represent? So I'm having you think a little bit about culture right now. What are 5 important groups of 4 words that might be represented on the Zia sun? So to participate on this on this platform, there's a little plus there, and you just click there, and it's going to give you a post, and you're going to type something in there. I'm going to say spring, summer, winter, fall. And if I want, I can add a picture. I'm going to, ooh, I don't want a camera, not that, let's see. Excuse me, I can do an image search. Maybe I want to search for seasons. And I can't type to save my life. Maybe it's going to pull up some images. So maybe I'm going to click on that. And that would be my, my posting that I'm going to do. So what I'm hoping right now is that I have some people that will go into this right now and post your ideas. And oh, we're running out of time. We only have 4 minutes. Maybe you can do this after the webinar and I will go in and check it. Let's see, update. I have somebody else that wrote the word FI. Let's see if anybody else is going to post there. We're at padlet.com/ABQAmy/Zia. And unfortunately, we're running out of time. But what I use this technology with my students right now online because it's a way for people to post ideas in writing. They read each other's and then they rate them. So if you look over here where it says rate, this anonymous, I'm going to click on that and I'm going to give it just a 1 star because I don't know what FI means. Oh, look at that. Somebody said morals, justice, civilization, freedom, happiness. The directions, northwest, southeast. Yeah. Ooh, human, animal, plants. Again, I will keep this up. My students will respond to each other and I will say, wow, this is deep. Then what I do after I give my students like 15 or 20 minutes, well, not usually that long, usually 5 to 10 minutes to post something, then I have them talk about it. So we'll get on a Zoom meeting and we'll talk about some of the different ideas that have been suggested. So if you haven't used this, Padlet is free. You can have an unlimited number of people use it, or of your students. You can only create 3 Padlets at a time. So I can only have 3 of these groups at a time, but it is a great resource. So I hope you have a chance to check it out. I wish we had more time to look at this, but let's go ahead and pop back into our PowerPoint, because what I want to do is to show you that the answers. So, whoops. Here are the answers. I told you spring, summer, fall, and winter. The Zia Pueblo Indians also think these 4 rays, one of them represents infancy, youth, adulthood, and old age. Somebody did get it, north, south, east, west. And then dawn, daylight, dusk, and dark. There's also a 5th group because there's 4 rays. Right, so there's 4 and there's 4, 4 and 4. But then this last one is because there's 4 groups of rays. So a strong body, a clear mind, a pure spirit, and a devotion to the welfare of others. So this is kind of the philosophy of the Zia Pueblos Indians, and these Native Americans live about 45 minutes from where I live here in Albuquerque. So I'd like to introduce this to my students. Students seem to always be interested in culture. So what did we practice? You were supposed to read other people's posts. You were supposed to listen to your colleagues today in our breakout rooms. You were supposed to write a post, and you were also encouraged to write chat questions if you had to. And then you had an opportunity today to speak to your colleagues. So we did actually use all 4 of these skills today in this webinar. I have a group of extension activities, and I'm not going to go over these. These are in the PowerPoint, but these are ways I was thinking that you could use legends in your classes. So if you are teaching 8th grade and you do have that legends, here are some ideas that you might put the PowerPoint in the Moodle, so you will be able to go and look at this at your leisure. Very quickly, I want to jump into the Moodle. You should have gotten directions from the organizers with your username and your password. Once you get into the Moodle, there are a couple of activities to do. One of those is to, let's see if I can get in there and just show them to you. One of those is to create a, one of those is to join the discussion. So here's our webinar number 1. We have a discussion that I would like to have you participate in. There are some supplementary resources. So when you click on this, it's going to open up the 6 resources that we have in here. One of those is a lesson plan, because your homework assignment is going to be to create a lesson plan about legends. In particular, the legend of the origin of the Vietnamese people. So I have created groups, and I'm going to have you work with your group. So you're not going to create it by yourself. You're going to be working with a group of 4 or 5 other teachers to create a lesson plan together. Unfortunately, I haven't quite figured out how to make the groups in Moodle. I've been teaching online forever, but this is a new platform for me. But within 24 hours, I think I'll have it figured out. So please check back here to see who's going to be in your group, and you can see the rubric for how you will be graded, and you have 2 weeks to do this. So this is not due anytime soon. It's due in 2 weeks on the 27th of April. I am so sorry that I went really fast through that last part. I know we did run out of time, and I will try to do a better job next week of making sure that you all get out on time. Just to go back to the PowerPoint one last time. This is what we did today. Again, you can look at this PowerPoint later if you want to review what we talked about today in our lessons. We have references here if anybody wants to look any of these references up. I do have some websites that you might want to use to develop your lesson plan, possibly. And I want to thank you for being bright stars today. I think your flag is beautiful. Vietnamese flag, I love your flag. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. And I dare say that we will continue to learn from each other. And I want to thank you so much for your attention. So again, one final bow, everybody, for doing good work. And I will see you all, I hope, next week. If you have any
See you next
questions,
week.
message me in the Moodle.